flash floods left at least 32 people dead. The incident comes as the Trump administration is making deep cuts to weather forecasting services and openly discussing shifting more of the burden for disaster recovery from FEMA to state governments.
Oh, my God, they're openly discussing things. They've got to be stopped. There will be blood. That's the Reverend Al Sharpton. You know, he's one of the great moral leaders of the Democrat Party and Western civilization today. He's the Reverend Al. The Reverend Al Sharpton. One of the great racist, scam artists, frauds, shakedown clowns that, we've seen ever in the history of the world. And he's a mainstream Democrat. And remember the media. He's a seven-figure employee of NBC News. He's a Democrat. And that's right, they are actively at MSDNC, at CNN, at the Washington Post, and elsewhere, actively trying to blame President Trump for the horrible, terrible flood in Texas, where now, Al Sharpton wrong about everything always. We now have at least 80 people dead there, and they're trying to blame Trump because they've identified one government employee out of about 4 million government employees that took a buyout, a greedy, selfish, self-serving, lazy bureaucrat that he is, took a buyout. And they're saying if only this one guy who took a buyout had been at work, then this never would have happened. Therefore, it's all Trump's fault. And that's a gigantic, fatuous lie by these people who lie all the time because that's what they do. They're the left. They're like communists. Okay, scratch like. Here's the National Weather Service. They put out a statement. The Associated Press helped them. Weather Service had extra staffers. What's this? But I just saw on MSDNC, on MS-13, with the Reverend Al Sharpton, that it's Trump's fault because he cut weather watchers or someplace in the country or the world. It's amazing. These people are just in the gutter. They live there. They vacuum up the filth there. They're what is it? Oh, Democrats. The National Weather Service. Here's the Associated Press now. The National Weather Service office in New Braunfels, which delivered forecasts for Austin, San Antonio, and the surrounding areas, that's in Texas, had extra staff on duty during the storms, Runyon said, the spokesman. Where the office would typically have two forecasters on duty during clear weather, they had up to 5 on staff during that time frame. There were extra people in here that night, and that's typical in every weather service office. You staff up for an event and bring people in on overtime to hold people over, Runyon said, and the Associated Press and the National Weather Service. But our news media, they've got another story altogether that they are pimping and pitching. And in fact, I think we have that dim-witted woman whose ex-husband signed on to the felonious 51 letter as a fake intelligence official, which he was not. Dana Bash at CNN doing the same thing. You see the tragedy, and it's a horrible, horrible event, and a terrible tragedy, and just nightmarish beyond description, a girls' camp and being swept away and up in trees miles away and all this madness. And CNN sees it as an opportunity to lynch someone from a tree with a rope because they're Democrats.
Just talking about the federal government and even the local government, 2 Texas National Weather Service offices involved in forecasting and warning about flooding on the Guadalupe River are missing some key staff members. A director of the NWS union told CNN
the NWS union.
The Austin San Antonio office is missing a warning coordination meteorologist due to the Trump administration's buyouts.
WCM.
Do you have any indication whether those or other cuts helped play a role in the fact that the people in the flood zone were not prepared and certainly not evacuated?
Isn't it Trump's fault because Trump offered buyouts because the government can never grow enough It must constantly grow and expand. We must forever add people to the government and tax you more and steal more of your stuff with a gun to your forehead because we're the government. And CNN, so I just played for you, the Reverend Al Charlatan, of course, and then Dana Bash. Is that her name, Dana Bash? Is that the and she pretends to be a journalist. And I remember the day she walked through the door at CNN as an intern. That's right. I was there the day she that's true. Walked through the door when she was an intern. And isn't that amazing? And here she, isn't it Trump's fault that there's a flood in Texas and that people were tragically killed? Isn't there a way we can blame Trump? Because the National Weather, and what did she call it? The WSU, the weather, the NWS Union, National Weather Service, but she just called it the NWS, like we all refer to the National Weather Service by an abbreviation that they use in Washington when they're all spreading monkeypox on the floor with one another. Hey, how about the NWS Union? Well, are you with the NWS Union? I am. They're just unbelievable, aren't they? And then they got the Reverend Al Charlatan, one of the great frauds in the history of great frauds. And he's a 7-figure news anchor for NBC fake news. Ought to be gassed. Ought to be gassed. Now, speaking of ought to be gassed, there's an absolutely amazing story. There are multiple amazing stories because, thank you. I was gone on on Thursday and Friday of last week over on what they call the Eastern Shore. We were in Maryland for a long weekend, my best girl and I, with friends. And we had a wonderful time with very nice people who were polite and say good morning when it's morning. And then in the afternoon, you know what they say? They say good afternoon. That's it. Yeah, it's people. It's not like D.C. at all. But let's get back to the Democrats because they're completely out of their minds. Now, here is Axios. It is a left-wing liberal news outlet. I'm making quotation marks with my fingers. And their headline today is this: Democrats are being told to get shot, and that's in quotation marks, get shot. That's the word that the words that they use. Get shot for the anti-Trump resistance. That's right. Democrats told to get shot for the anti-Trump resistance. And the headline before you click on it on Al Gore's amazing internet, peace be upon him, is there needs to be blood. That's the headline in quotation marks. There needs to be blood. Democrat voters. This is what the story is telling us. Democrat voters are telling their elected officials that there will be blood, and it's time that people start getting shot because of the Trump resistance, because gas prices are too low and the price of eggs got too low. So the left needs to start murdering people, which the left has a long and storied history of doing. The headline, again, when you click on it here, Axios, 4 hours ago, Democrats are being told to get shot for the anti-Trump resistance. And the people at Axios, they're Democrats, Andrew Solander typing on behalf of the radical left. He types, at town halls in their districts and in one-on-one meetings with constituents and activists, that means left-wing radicals who are mentally ill and sever their own genitalia and put it in a blender and make kind of a fresh fruit frappy out of it, don't they? Or maybe put some strawberries in there, something like that. At town halls in their districts and one-on-one meetings with constituents and activists, Democrat members of Congress are facing a growing thrum of demands, facing a growing thrum of demands to break the rules and fight dirty and not be afraid to get hurt. House Democrats told Axios they see a growing anger among their base that has, in some cases, morphed into a disregard for American institutions, political traditions, and even the rule of law. Well, I don't know where you guys have been for the last 5 years, but the Democrats have been burning and looting and sacking and plundering and shooting and killing and attacking the police and, defunding the police and funding illegal alien gang members to come into the country and smuggle human beings, child sex trafficking, the Democrat Party. But this is your Democrat Party today, and this is the left-wing Axios writing on behalf of their party, the Democrat Party. Now, it's morphed into a disregard for American institutions, political traditions, even the rule of law. I recall them attacking the Mark Hatfield courthouse in Portland for 100 days. I recall them attacking police stations and sealing the doors to the police stations while they firebombed them with police inside. I recall them, what was it called, the Chum or the Flub or the Chop, where they murdered that teenager that had graduated from high school the day before. They murdered 3 black people there in like 2 days. They killed dozens of people during the riots. They injured thousands of police. They perpetrated billions in property damage. I think they gave up on the rule of law a long time ago. It's time for them, I think, to attack Fort Sumter again because they want to keep their slaves. This time it's illegal aliens, but you know how they are. Aren't they amazing? So the Axios people with the get shot and, it's time for blood. And you know what they're railing about here? The one big, beautiful bill. One big, beautiful bill. There needs to be blood. They don't know what's in it. They haven't read it. They get their news from Al Sharpton, and they have no idea what they're talking about. The Democrat Party is a dangerous terrorist organization. I think, would that be a fair description, terrorist organization? I don't know. How many people do they shoot? Well, this morning, I took a look just because it's the kind of thing I do. The ABC 7 in Chicago, Illinois, under the headline, Chicago Violence. Chicago shootings, : At least 55 people shot, 6 fatally in 4th of July weekend gun violence. But fortunately, the Democrats had banned guns in Chicago. Otherwise, it'd be bad. It could be bad, but they've taken care of it by banning guns. At least 55 people have been shot, 6 fatally in gun violence across the city over the 4th of July weekend, Chicago police said. ABC 7 is tracking holiday weekend shootings from the morning of Thursday, July 3rd at midnight to the evening of Sunday, July 6th at 7:59 p.m. And that is last night at midnight. So, about 9 hours ago, a little over 9 hours ago. There it is. Officials say they found 2 men shot in an alley. One was shot in the face, another shot in the leg. And Saturday at 10:30, they called Ferdinand Street and Laramie on the west side. And the list goes on and on because it turns out the police said every single person that shot someone was a Democrat. There were no Republicans in Chicago shooting people over the 4th of July weekend, only Democrats. And all of their guns were illegal guns. But that's nothing because at Axios, they're telling us that members of, who are unnamed, of course, because they're having sex with the reporters at Axios. So you got to keep it a secret because, this guy's husband might find out about it or something like that, and that could cause trouble at home. Then he'd be in deep. The idea that we're going to save every mom and we're not going to play the Republican game, I don't think that's resonating with voters anymore, said one House Democrat. And they're all, again, unnamed because it's a secret. The news media is involved in I think it violates the RICO statutes in a conspiracy against the American people. Another Democrat member of the House of Representatives told Axios that a sense of fear and despair and anger among his voters puts us in a different position where we can't keep following norms of decorum. Yeah, well, you should get back to firebombing the Jews' mansion in Pennsylvania because I guess those are the rules of decorum because the Jewish governor, Josh Shapiro, in Pennsylvania, his home had to be firebombed with Molotov cocktails by a Democrat Party activist because he is too pro-Israel. He's Jewish, and he's too pro-Israel. So, and that story went away in a half a day. That just, boom, that's gone. Took longer to put out the fire than it took to put out the story. Axios spoke to more than 24 House Democrats for this story, and many requesting anonymity, naturally. to offer candid insights about their interactions with constituents and activists. Right. And we have to fight harder, get shot. There needs to be blood. This is the left. Make no mistake. For how long have I been saying this now? They're not liberals. They're the left. And the left makes the jihad look like a charitable organization. We are at 888-630-9625. A lot more details on the Democrat. I think the Confederacy is being formed again. They're going to resurrect Jefferson Davis, get back to their old tricks. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. Looks like the Democrats and their illegal alien gang member friends from Latin American countries are together again. Several in custody after North Texas police officers shot in neck at an ICE facility. Several, like a small army, a number of armed men attacked an ICE facility, shot one officer in the neck, and several of the gunmen have now been arrested. The Democrat Party is third worlding the United States of America. The left is the third world. They bring with them the third world. I'll fill you in on that amazing story coming up, too. Right now, let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Brad, calling from Key West, Florida. Brad, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris. Once again, thank you very much. And I hope you had a great 4th.
We did. We had a great, great time. We honestly did. It was wonderful, all-American, calm, great fireworks, fun, cold beer. It was wonderful.
So I'll get quick. Do we need the National Weather Service? I mean, every local news station has a high-tech weather department. And how come none of them saw anything, including the Weather Channel?
Well, I guess warnings went out not too long before this epic storm hit, this biblical storm hit. Do we need a National Weather Service? I don't know. It's not a question I've ever considered before, quite honestly, but
I mean,
somebody didn't do a good job here.
I live in hurricane country in Key West that we can get hit any time.
Right.
And I get my weather information 150 miles away from a local station in Miami. That's where I get my weather.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I don't know, do they get their information from the National Weather Service? Do they put the feeds out of the weather radars and make the predictions? And, somebody's got to call it a Category 4 hurricane, Brad, instead of a Category 3 hurricane, right?
Yeah, but they all got their radar and everything, scanning everything.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, it was a huge failure over the weekend in Texas. And it's the stories. I've got some of it coming up for you. It's horrifying. You may recall that a Democrat congresswoman who allegedly goes by the name LaMonica MacGyver. She's a Democrat, and she attacked an ICE detention facility in New Jersey, along with the radical extremist communist Democrat mayor of Newark, New Jersey. They were both arrested. They were assaulting federal law enforcement. And the Democrat Party, they're back to their 1862 ways. I got to tell you. And they're violently assaulting federal law enforcement agents. They
you can't talk to a congresswoman like that, and you gotta put your hands on me. You will pay.
You will pay. She's a communist. She's a moron. Her name is LaMonica, which is not a recognizable name. And her last name is MacGyver, like the TV show where the clever guy puts stuff together. That's not her. That's definitely not her. and also Ras Baraka, R-A-S, not R-O-S-S, R-A-S Baraka. Their values are not American values. They're not even Western values. They're not post-Enlightenment values. They are the left, and they're violent, and they're insane. And the Democrat mayor of Newark, New Jersey, Ras Baraka, along with Democrat Congresswoman LaMonica MacGyver, were violently assaulting federal law enforcement in uniform in an effort apparently to break into an ICE detention facility to break out the illegal alien gang members so they could start killing in the United States of America, in the streets of the United States. And all of this is fine with the New York Times and CNN because of the mental issues they have. And now with that as background, ICE, they're Nazis, they're fascists, all the Democrats and late-night TV.
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets.
Gestapo.
They're in unmarked vans wearing masks, being shipped off to foreign torture dungeons. No chance to mount a defense.
That is Democrat Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, who was chosen by Kamala Harris, remember her, to be her running mate, and he was the vice presidential running mate in the Democrat Party. And he's not a good person, But let me get back, because the Democrats, what was it, gazpacho? He thinks that Donald Trump has some kind of a spicy Spanish soup in the summertime, which can sometimes be delicious, but isn't for everybody. Gazpacho, Donald Trump's gazpacho, sure. And that's he's trying to say Gestapo, but he's too stupid, too ignorant, too ill-educated, and too unintelligent, too unserious. He's a Democrat, and he's the Democrat governor of Minnesota, and the gazpacho soup had him really upset there. Now, let's because they're the ICE, they're the Gestapo, even if he doesn't know how to pronounce it, and they're the bad guys. They're the villains of the story. Now, the headline from CBS News. Several in custody after North Texas police officer shot in neck outside ICE facility. That headline actually understates what's happening here by CBS News. Several suspects, that would be at least 3 people, are in custody after a police officer was injured in a shooting at an Immigration and Customs Enforcement detention facility in Alvarado, Texas, in the late-night hours of the 4th of July. Just before 11 p.m., the Alvarado Police Department said it was called to the 1200 block of Sunflower Lane outside the ICE Prairieland detention facility on a report of a suspicious person. When officers arrived, they saw a person who appeared to be carrying a firearm, according to a news release. Was it a long gun or a pistol? Alvarado police said that when one of the first responding officers tried to engage the person, who again is carrying a firearm, an unknown number of suspects opened fire. Wait a minute. So you now have multiple. There's one guy with a gun. The police show up. Then suddenly a barrage of gunfire comes from outside of the immediate scene. Pretty amazing stuff. So first responders shows up. An unknown number of suspects open fire. At least one bullet struck an officer in the neck. The injured officer was flown from the scene to a Fort Worth hospital where he was treated. According to Alvarado police, several armed suspects were taken into custody after trying to flee the scene. And these are the police that the Democrats want to defund, that the Democrats vilify, because they want the armed gangs. But wait, it gets better. At this time, the suspects' names have not been released. Really, is it Fidel, Juan Carlos, Capo, human smuggling, Gazpacho? What is that? Honestly, their names have not been. Why have their names not been released? Is it like Osama bin Laden Mohammed, or is it just Fidel Gazpacho Cartelio? Because Democrats, you know how they are. So federal law enforcement told CBS News that local police arrested 8 people. The officials said some of those apprehended were wearing body armor. The sources told CBS News that early reports indicate more than a dozen masked individuals dressed in black arrived at the Prairieland ICE detention facility late Friday night, vandalized vehicles and security cameras in the parking lot. You know, when you go after the security cameras, that means that you're not done. That means you're coming back for more. You want to take out the... But hang on. They're wearing all black. They're wearing body armor that at more than a dozen. So this is an Army-style assault on an ICE detention facility that the Democrat Party has been vilifying and demonizing, and the Reverend Al Sharpton and all the rest of these criminals. Just amazing stuff. More than a dozen masked individuals dressed in black arrived at the ICE detention facility in Prairieland, Texas, late Friday night. The individuals launched fireworks in an apparent effort to lure law enforcement in. That would be for an ambush, of course. When reached by CBS News, the FBI declined to comment on the investigation. The Justice Department said Saturday morning it was closely monitoring the attacks on DHS facilities. That's plural, so maybe it's happening in more than one location. We are closely monitoring the attacks on DHS detention facilities in Prairieland, Texas, and Portland, Oregon, and are coordinating with the USAO, the U.S. Attorney's Office, and our law enforcement partners. Justice Department Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said in a social media post. The department has zero tolerance for assaults on federal officers. Yeah, but there are members of Congress and Democrat member of Congress like LaMonica, and the Democrat mayor of Newark, New Jersey, Ras Baraka, and we've got the former Democrat vice presidential candidate and current governor of the state of Minnesota demonizing DHS.
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets.
Yeah, and he said they're wearing black, they're wearing masks. They're wearing masks to protect their families from the cartels that you creeps have invited into the United States of America, while you third world our country, as a verb, of course. You're turning our country into a third world beep hole, and people will be fleeing the United States soon enough and going to Belize asking for asylum from the government of Belize to get out of this beep hole that the Democrat Party is creating in the United States of America. And they are. They're quite amazing. And again, Axios today with the headline, "There needs to be blood. Democrat voters tell their elected officials that it may be time to get shot in the Trump resistance push." And I saw MSDNC this morning and Mika Brzezinski attacking ICE and the ICE arrests and ICE raids of all the illegal alien gang members and human traffickers and drug traffickers and the child rapists. And the Democrat Party wants more of this, I know, because they always vote in favor of more of it in Congress. Aren't they amazing? Man, oh man. Yes, sir. Also in June, 3 people were arrested outside an ICE facility in Portland, Oregon after clashing with law enforcement. The Democrats are behind all of this, 100%. And I'm sorry, more than a dozen armed gunmen with body armor and dressed in all black with masks raiding an ICE facility in Texas. 1 officer shot. And this is a combat zone. This is Hollywood-style violence. This is epic. And it is 100% on the Democrat Party. 100%. Again, the party of the gray uniforms and the Confederate States of America.
The concentration camp that he's building in Florida in order to round up people, brown people, and throw them in a camp. Joyless
Reed on MSDNC, racializing it. Hard to believe, given that she's a bullwhip-toting, noose-grabbing, radical, Democrat, extremist, fascist, and racist, and anti-Semite. I don't want to leave anything out. But honestly, Democrats are being told to get shot for the anti-Trump resistance, and it's Axios' headline today. Great stuff. A growing anger among their base has morphed into a disregard for American institutions, political traditions, and even the rule of law. We're not going to play that Republican game. I don't think it's resonating with voters anymore, said one anonymous, creepy Democrat who should be kept away from the children. Axios types, for months, Democrat lawmakers have fumed that their base's demands to fight harder misunderstand the lack of legislative and investigative power afforded to the minority party in Congress. They never learn anything because they're incredibly stupid and corrupt. And the Republicans were in the minority about just a few months ago. You whining bunch of cross-dressing freakazoids. We've got people who are desperately wanting us to do something. No matter what we say, they want more, said Democrat Representative Brad Schneider, a Democrat from Illinois. Liberal voters have angrily accosted Democrats at town halls for, in their view, not doing enough to counter President Trump's agenda. Yeah, these are called elections, you little gun-toting fascist, you blood-drenched bunch of, honestly, who's worse? I think I asked this last week, didn't I? ISIS, what did I ask? Or Hamas? Hamas or the Democrats? And honestly, the Democrats are worse. They're not currently taking hostages that we know of, holding hostages, but I got to tell you. And the Axios people say the grassroots wants more. Some of them have suggested what we really need to do is be willing to get shot. This is what the left-wingers at Axios are reporting about their own party, the Democrat Party. They have to be telling the members of Congress that they have to be willing to get shot because they're Democrats. That's what the Democrat Party is a violent criminal gang, and they only do it in gangs. Except that one Democrat that showed up and shot President Trump through the ear. He was solo, and then he was shot and killed by a counter sniper, the Secret Service. That was the good part of that. And then, of course, the Democrat Bernie Sanders campaign volunteer that showed up on a baseball field with a Chinese assault rifle and shot Congressman Steve Scalise. He was there to murder the entire Republican baseball team. This has been coming for a long, long time. The drumbeat has been out there. I've been sharing it with you. I've been talking to you about it for a long, long time now. Just amazing stuff that the Democrat Party is doing in the United States of America. Yeah, now the media, some of them talking about the grassroots in the Democrat Party, have suggested what we really need to do is be willing to get shot. That's the Axios. When visiting ICE facilities or federal agencies, a third House Democrat told Axios. Again, anonymous coward that he is. Our own base is telling us that what we're doing is not good enough. There needs to be blood to grab the attention of the press and the public, the lawmakers said. A fourth House Democrat said constituents have told them civility isn't working. It hasn't been tried, not by you guys, not by a long shot. Again, this is another example of they use the words, but they don't know what they mean. Civility, you guys should, if they have access to the internet, government-sponsored high-speed internet, then they can look up the word civility, because you certainly don't practice civility. Civility isn't working. Prepare for, listen to this, violence to fight to protect our democracy. You're not protecting our democracy. You're doing the opposite. You're a bunch of communist pig dogs. You're armed, cross-dressing mental cases. A fifth House Democrat told Axios that people online have sent me crazy beep, told me to storm the White House and stuff like that. Though he added, there is always people on the internet saying crazy stuff. Yeah, we call them Democrats. Democrats should be denied access to the internet from now on. And the Second Amendment. And air travel. And the right to vote. Then things would start to get better. And the Democrat Party believes that communist China and Putin's Russia are a safe haven for morality in one case, and that communist China is the world's moral authority. Front page of the Washington Post today, Russia is a haven for morality. This all goes to the left. It all goes to the Democrat Party because they're filthy. They're out shooting people right now. More people shot in Chicago, I think, than in Kiev over the 4th of July weekend, though more killed technically in Kiev. All right, let's go to Dave, calling from Jamestown, Pennsylvania. Dave, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm great, Dave. What do you know?
I think that President Trump should declare these people that attack ICE personnel and federal installations, etc., as terrorists, and they should be sent to Gitmo pronto.
Well, some of them are elected Democrats. The elected mayor of Newark, New Jersey, an elected member of the House of Representatives, violently attacking federal law enforcement officers with badges and uniforms and firearms. You got elected Democrats. What do you do about them, Dave?
What's your point? They're the same as everybody else, aren't they?
Well, nobody's
under the law.
Nobody's above the law, right? They're under the law, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, Chris, point of interest. I was with the 193rd Special Operations Squadron. We were at King Aziz Airport there above you when you were in Dhahran.
Very nice, very nice. Did you have a nice time at the war?
Oh, lovely. Got to do all sorts of things.
193rd?
We did radio and TV broadcasting from the air. We did put out messages to the troops on the other side, give up, you can't win, this is how you give up, and this is who you are, and we're going to visit you tonight.
We're going to visit you tonight, which is the most fun. That is, and you enjoy specialized airplanes.
I did, yeah, but they actually took that mission off the map. I'm now officially a dinosaur.
Well, it happens to the best of us. It's well, God bless you. That's good stuff. Gulf War I. Saluting you, Dave. Wonderful stuff. And when we come back, I want to explain the violent Democrat Party and how China and Russia are morally superior to the United States.